A few years ago, I started doing a talk on how to use social media to advance skepticism, though in reality, it was a talk about how difficult it is to stop misinformation from spreading on social media. I talked specifically about a few studies, including one from 2010 called From Obscurity to Prominence in Minutes, Political Speech and Real-Time Search. Researchers at Wellesley examined the political race between Scott Brown and Martha Coakley, who ran against each other for Senate in Massachusetts. Coakley was the heavy favorite right up until Election Day, when Brown suddenly rocketed ahead of her. The researchers identified the primary culprit as Brown's very successful social media campaign, primarily using bots on Twitter. The bots all followed each other, and they continually retweeted a link to a website smearing Coakley with lies. Not only did this cause more people to see the smear campaign on Twitter, but Google had at the time just introduced social media results into its search results page, placing them prominently at the top. That allowed people who weren't even on Twitter, who just happened to search out information about Coakley or about Brown, to see the smears as the first result. The researchers concluded that Google's actions, and I quote, provided disproportionate exposure to personal opinions, fabricated content, unverified events, lies, and misrepresentations that otherwise would not find their way in the first page, giving them the opportunity to spread virally. I bring all this up because despite their findings, Google still incorporates social media in results, and it still has a negative impact, exposing people to misinformation. On Twitter, ironically, I saw user Justin Hendricks point out that Google is spreading misinformation about the recent mass murder of churchgoers in Texas. If you search "who is Devin Kelley," you can see what's popular on Twitter, and what's popular on Twitter is a whole lot of bullshit. Much like with the conservative Twitter bombing of Martha Coakley, staunch conservative conspiracy theorists have hijacked this story on social media. Before the news broke that the murderer was a white man, Redditors were already convinced it was a Muslim immigrant. And once that turned out to not be true, they decided that the white man must be a Bernie-loving socialist and even an Antifa, which, by the way, does mean anti-fascist. None of those things is true and can be attributed to fake Facebook pages or just tweets that state it as though it's fact with no actual evidence to back it up. In fact, Kelley was exactly the type we have come to expect who commit horrific crimes like this, an angry white man with a history of domestic violence and a love of guns. People using Google, though, may never realize that. To make matters worse, Google's autocomplete feature jumped into the fray by offering up Antifa as the third option when people search for Devin Kelley. And yes, that's logged out incognito mode, so it's not based on the individual user's previous searches. These are basic features that Google has installed to make it a more pleasant user experience, but the result is reinforcement of fake news, and dangerous news at that. It's hard enough to get any kind of solutions to the rampant gun violence happening in the United States right now without rumors proliferating about gunmen killing because they're anti-fascist. Don't get me wrong, people do kill because they're anti-fascist, but traditionally those people were your grandparents and they were actually killing fascists. When people in the U.S. commit mass murder, they're traditionally doing it because they're violent people with easy access to guns. Understanding that, accepting that, might help us stop it.